Melissa. How are you doing?
Good. I'm so excited. And thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. It's all in your head. Um,
Uh,
I just love how we met and I can't wait for us to dive into it. Like it's just crazy. And I feel like from such a short amount of time, like I would be like, okay, here are all my really good friends. And I'd be like, Georgette, like literally, I
oh,
feel like we just were total fast friends. You're my ride
girl,
and die girl, right?
I got your back. I'm here for you. I know you're here for me too. I love it. It's this unconditional connection we built in a short time.
Literally, it was probably what, maybe 20 minutes, and I'm even stretching that one. I would say in 10 minutes, it was like, this is my girl.
We did have a special added bond that connected us, right? Like we're literally in each other's visions right now. So
Which is wild that we didn't even like. That is kind. It truly is amazing. Um, so tell us just a little bit about you, a little bit about your background of, um, how because I always say, like, I didn't always have a mindset, or at least I wasn't aware of it.
Mhm.
So give us a little bit of background about you. Has this always been your thing, or is this new for you? And yeah, so tell us.
Okay. Well, okay, first of all, again, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to share. I think this is wonderful, and I can't wait to have this discussion and just see what this hour plays out to be. So I'm very excited. Um, to answer your question, I mean, I don't even know if there's a simple answer to that, right? I'm going to try to condense it, but with the mindset part. I definitely don't come from a household of the healthiest of mindsets. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people can relate to that. And then a lot of people maybe have had that amazing support where parents, can really encourage and talk about, like raising their kids to have not so much of the limiting beliefs and have the mindset to affirm our goals and desires daily, and teach their children to envision. But I definitely didn't come from that. And I'm gonna guess that a lot of people probably listening to this can relate to that part.
So let me
You
ask
know,
you, and you can go as deep or as little as you want to share. Would you
sure.
say that um would you say that your parents were, or your environment was kind of completely counterproductive? Or would you say that it was just not, it wasn't purposeful, it's just kind of they were carrying their own stuff?
That's a you know what, that's a great question. The way I see it is, and it's passed on. It's passed on from how they grew up. And again, two different households, like my mother having the life that she had with her parents, my father, like every other family, right? They come under this one household and then they have their kids. I don't think a lot of people dealt with their stuff
Mhm.
back when then. We
Yep.
definitely have so many more tools these days, and we have so many different outlets. And so I would definitely say they did their best.
Mhm.
And with that came the scarcity mindset, right? The mindset of hold on to what you have, like just be thankful that's what you have. You don't need more. Like this is all you need.
Mhm.
Because they came from a place of that.
Right.
So, you know, and it's funny because I really think I'm a natural, I think I was born with natural resistance. I've always been the kid that wouldn't tolerate, like if someone said, don't do that, my natural reaction at a very, very young age was, why? Why can't I do that? Even if you told me, don't cross, like, don't open that door. It's like, why? I always had a very inquisitive mindset,
Right.
never played or followed the rules quite well if they didn't make sense to me. I'm not a rule breaker, but I definitely love pushing boundaries. I can build character. Now I'm thankful for that. So I've always just had that even, you know, in my own household, I have to say, whether you want to call it a rebellious, you know, personality or the black sheep of the family, whatever you want to call it, I always questioned. And with that, I feel that because of that, I really feel like it did shape my mindset, because I always wanted,
Right.
I wasn't satisfied with what answers I was given. You know, it's like if it didn't convince me, if it wasn't enough, I would just keep asking more and more and more questions. And I do think that's where my mindset started forming and shaping at a very young age.
So let me ask you this, because I'm always fascinated by this, because I was always aware of my inner thoughts. You know, like I've always been very attuned to what I was thinking. Would you say as a child, when you were younger, were you aware of the negative or the positive talking that you had with yourself? And would you say it was more negative or more positive?
wow, that's great. I would say I was more aware of other people's thoughts
Mhm.
before my own. And then I applied
And
that
when
to
you
myself.
say that, like when you say that, were you like more worried about, okay, what are they thinking about me?
Know how their thought process was in their life
Gotcha.
and what brought them to where they were.
Yeah.
Again, I had at a very young age, I always kind of not judged people, but measured
Mhm.
um, where they were at, what brought them there, what, you know, reasons versus excuses, you know. Again, I think there's a big difference with that. And I learned from both. And then I so started questioning myself, like, oh, do I do that? You know, like I think at a very young age, we start to compare ourselves to others, and sometimes it can be very unhealthy. But I was thankful enough to have used that as a tool to measure my insecurities, my goals, my vision in a positive way. And that took work,
Yeah.
because I can really see how someone could go down a road where, you know, I mean, where you start to envy people, where you start to have the victim mindset, or oh, they have more. Or, so I am lucky. It was definitely a work in progress, but
So
yeah.
I
So I
always,
always where people were at.
so I guess that what I'm always so fascinated by is the starting point of a shift. And for what I see for a lot of people is that it's usually
Mhm.
something traumatic that they can either, like you said, decide to either, okay, I can shift into victimhood, or I can pull on my big girl pants and I can like push through and find a different way. Was there
Okay.
anything monumental? And you don't have to share what that was, but was there anything monumental that you had, that you faced, that said, okay, there's a different way and I've got to find it?
Absolutely, there was, and there still is.
Mhm.
So it's a daily choice for me to still wear the hat that I put on daily and work on myself and the progress that I'm working towards, right? Because we all know people that have it worse or better off than us, right? But you know, what do I choose? Like, I don't want to feel better about myself when I look at others who have less than me. That's not what makes me feel better. You know, some people prefer to be the better person in the room so that they feel better about their insecurities and their struggles, and that's definitely not me. So yeah, there constantly was challenges from my very early on upbringing, and a lot of those are not solved, unfortunately, in my family. I mean, I'm still kind of struggling with that, and it is what it is. But there's a saying where people say, you know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'm going to tell you, I don't even remember when I started saying this, but I remember the first time ever hearing it, Melissa. It upset me so much because I felt that that saying meant I equal what I come from. That was my translation as a very young child. And really, if you think about what the meaning is, it means just that. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But I am here to tell you today and share with anyone listening that I disagree with that. For me, I always used to say, well, the apple falls far from the tree and there's a hill and it's rolling, rolling, rolling so far away from that tree, you have no clue. And that's what I used to always have to tell myself. I'm nothing like where I came from,
And don't
and I
you
love
think
my
it's a choice?
family. I love them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a choice too, right?
It is.
You choose to use it, like I love that how you said like you can choose it to be a victim and say, okay, well, this is what I've got, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But I love how I've not ever heard anyone say that. I love that your apple fell from the tree, far from it, and it rolled downhill.
Oh, you should see how big, it's like a mountain, okay?
I'm picturing Mount Everest and this little tree up at the top of it, and you're down at base camp.
It was a big mountain.
That and I think honestly, like for you to have those like that's a gift. Like what a gift for you to have that intuitiveness of the intuition of knowing that to have that. Like that to me is it's a very precious gift.
Well, thank you. It came with a lot of challenges, right? Because you're supposed to abide, you're supposed to follow rules, you're supposed to listen to your adults and your elders and all that. So the fact that I did that, but on my own terms, always caused me headaches. And I was always told, once again, I'm gonna have problems in my life. I'm not gonna be able to do something properly because I can't follow rules, or I ask too many questions. People don't like that, but it really doesn't matter because it really brought me to where I am today. And guess what? I have to ask a lot of questions in my career, right? Isn't that what we do?
Oh, absolutely. And this is what I love about, like, do you know how much hope you have just given to every Black sheep in the family? Like, I mean, honestly, like you are going to change lives with that statement because well, I don't know, this is not a fact, but everybody says every family has one. And,
Yeah.
I think that, like you said, they're made to be seem like they're the ones that you're not going to make it because you didn't follow the rules. And
Mhm.
I disagree. I'm with you. I feel like those are the people that are going to be the one, like we learned, be the one in your family. There's me.
Yes.
And there it
Yeah.
is. Like it's not a bad thing. It's actually, and I feel like you just gave a bunch of people a lot of hope right there.
Thank you. I'm glad I was able to share that. And I wasn't sure which direction this conversation was going to go in. I promised myself, like, I'm an open book. I'll share with anyone. So, yeah, this is just me being very raw and real right now. And if there is anyone that's listening to this, yeah, don't worry about it. Again, I mean, just be yourself. And if you are very inquisitive, I promise you can turn that into a gift. I promise you that would be very helpful in many areas of your life. And don't listen to people, right? I mean, they're criticizing you from a place that they don't have a right to really criticize you for, right? Unless someone is much grander than I, but then again, that would only be God.
Right. I was gonna say, I don't know
God.
that. Yeah.
There's not much, but if God was to tell me like simmer down a little bit, I'd be like, okay. But until then, I'm just gonna keep being me. That's
Yeah.
all.
So how did you come to, because I mean, I feel like, the conversations that you and I had just about putting it out there and envisioning these things, like you really made a big thing happen. I mean, that was huge that happened a few days ago. And that was not something that you just kind of, this is gonna happen one day. Like you've been putting this in practice for a long time. Do you want to tell everybody this was such a great, like I can't tell every morning when I get up and I'm doing like my reading and my affirmations and like journaling, like I'm literally picturing this moment because it's proof that like anything can happen. And we have control over that. So
We do.
yeah.
We do.
So we have a mutual person that we absolutely like really fills our cup is Ed Milet. And we were so fortunate that he was one of our speakers at this event that we were just at Shareholders. And you and I were like, oh my gosh, we're so excited. We're gonna meet him. And the next thing I know, we're in line, we're waiting, and we get separated. And then the next thing I know, I look at my phone and there's a picture of you and Ed Milet literally standing outside. I'm like, what in the world? She just went and hunted that guy down. But no, that is not what happened. So I'm going to let you tell the whole story. But like, that was my version of like, that girl was going to make that happen. She knocked down every door backstage and she found this guy and got a picture with him. But no, go ahead.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Okay.
Are you want to tell the story? Because if you don't have to, okay.
Yes. No, I absolutely will. I'm just thankful that we're doing this a few days after, like the fact, because if you would have asked me the next day, like I'm literally just weaning off of my high. Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad that I can put a sentence together about what happened. Because I think you put me on the spot, the night after.
No, it was just so magical. It was just so magical that like everybody was like, well, what happened? I'm like, I can't even share the story because it's not even mine to tell. Oh
my gosh, my heart is racing. Okay. So also, I really hope we can send him this podcast and he can listen to it. Okay. Okay, good. I love that. He has to be. He's like so a part of this, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what happened? As you mentioned, Melissa, like I don't know if anyone listening, if you do know Ed Milet, but please go check him out. He's got an amazing podcast. Just follow him. He will inspire you in all areas of your life. He's one of the most genuine speakers. I've been following him for a good 15 years now. 12, 15 years where, I have other mentors too. Like I love a ton of other people out there, but he truly speaks to my heart and I love the man and I love his heart. And I've always envisioned, your dreams and one day I'd love to meet, this person. One day I'd love to meet this person. But very recently, I started meditating. I have a girlfriend of mine and she's like, but you got to do it. I'm like, I know, but everyone tells me I got to meditate. She's like, you got to do it. I'm like, oh, I got to do it. I'm like, okay, do it. So I knew I needed a different morning routine. So here's what's happened. Over the past 2 months specifically, I've been honing in on my dreams and what those kind of dreams look like. I'll leave a big section out of it because those are for me to live out, right? But I will share this. I've basically been starting off my mornings with my morning coffee, and here's my amber cup. Okay, so this is my heated coffee. I'm going to take a sip. So I'll start my morning coffee with my headphones in my ear, and I'll be listening to, something very inspirational and motivational. A great reminder to be grateful, to be blessed. And I listen to that for about 15, 20 minutes in the morning while I'm kind of, staring in and gazing and thinking and that. And then after my 20 minutes of priming, I will go into my 20-minute meditation. Now, this is all a very new routine for me, right, Melissa? I shared that with you. I even shared the link, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
after this whole thing happened, I'm like, okay, tell me what you did.
You better start doing it. So I'll do my 20 minutes of meditation. And again, I just kind of dove into meditating. Like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? I don't know. I'm just doing what I feel is right.
I think you are.
Yeah, right. Maybe this is a way for the universe to tell me I am doing it right. But I will meditate. And then after my meditation, I'll do about 20 minutes of gratitude journaling. And like feel everything I'm grateful for and feel everything that I'm blessed to have and just really give thanks and on paper. And as I'm writing it and conscious of every word that I'm writing on paper, I feel it in my heart. Like I feel it exploding out of my heart. And I can't tell you how many people I think of day in, day out that make this paper of mine. And Ed Milet did make it in there. He did make it in there. And I really, really hoped that one day, you know, again, part of this larger vision and dream that I have, but he was in there. And I've been doing this for 2 months now, envisioning it very clearly. And I get to the summit. Well, first of all, when I found out he was keynote speaker, I
So
mean,
let me ask you, did you know that he was going to be keynote speaker before you started the gratitude with meeting him, or was it after you found out he was going to be there?
after.
Okay.
Yeah, I had no clue. It was just like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So that was one potential coincidence where I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like I'm gonna be in the same room.
Right.
You know, I'm gonna be breathing the same oxygen in like a 40,000 square foot building. Like that was good with that. But when I found out it was something unreal, that I thought, wow, that's amazing. Like I'm definitely gonna have front row seats. That's all I kept telling myself. I'm gonna have front row seats. Well, the week came, I didn't know where he was going to be. You know, there was a little bit of a mix up with the schedule, and we were trying to find out. I think it was Beth that said he was going to be speaking like at 3, or me and Gogo were maybe earlier. We weren't sure what time, but we all ended up being in the same room because I mean, Glenn was speaking. Like there was a ton. That was like the main stage, right, during the summit. So we were there. We figured at some point he's going to be there. Ironically, I had a meeting halfway. I was actually rescheduled. I was supposed to have a meeting with management from Canada, from EXP Canada, the day before that got canceled. And they asked me if I could make it Saturday morning, but Saturday we were jam-packed. There was a ton of stuff going on Saturday, right? We had our luxury certification, we had John Cheplack, there was tons. So I thought, oh, I can't do it. Can we make it Friday? And they said, yes, sure. So we confirmed a Friday meeting with Canada EXP, and we booked a time, 10 a.m. So again, at this time, I had no clue.
I have to ask, were you kind of paranoid? Like, okay, I'm going to go to this meeting, and this is when this man is going to be on stage.
Well, you know, I figured a 10 a.m. meeting, and I didn't think he would be on that early.
Okay, good.
I wasn't worried. My main concern was I want to make sure I have the best seats, right? And that's when you and I ran into each other in the morning, tried to run and grab the first front row seat. So when they confirmed the meeting, going in line the next day, like the day of the summit, the day of the main hall, again, you and I crossed paths. We were like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna get front row. We're gonna save each other's seats. And then of course, with the hustle and bustle, we lost each other, right?
Yes.
We totally lost each other. But I did make front row. I did make front row to the right beside Amy Mitchell. Actually, she was like VIP section, or like right next door. Is perfect. And I was just satisfied. I thought, oh my goodness, I'm gonna see him.
This is perfect.
Yeah, like I just thought that I was satisfied, but lo and behold, the universe had different plans for me. So 10 a.m. So here I am listening to Glenn, did my morning thing, and then 10 a.m. was on my clock, and I thought, okay, I gotta go. I got a meeting with Canada. Step out of the main hall, which is, you know, there was thousands of people there. I'm the only loser going this way. Everyone's seated, and I'm like the only one going this way, right? It was. They're like, what's wrong with her? I stepped out, and we started our awesome meeting, and then somehow we started talking about Ed Milet, and a couple, like, they didn't actually know too much about him, and I was sharing a lot about him in the moment. And I think I do owe the universe, like something happened. If I was to trace back at the steps that made everything happen, John Tsai is the person that said, well, let's go meet him. And I thought, okay. And you should have saw my face. I'm like, okay, let's go. Okay, let's go.
Not sure how you're going to make that happen, but okay.
Yeah, I didn't really know how to take that. I was like, yeah, okay, let's see what happens. But they really didn't know much about him. And I'm the one, I think they just felt my passion. I just feel like they were so appreciative that I was sharing. They're like, well, you got to meet him. I'm like, you're right, I got to meet him. I'm like, how? right? I didn't ask how. I literally just followed like a little puppy. I was like, okay, we're gonna go meet him, right? And I didn't even think it was gonna happen.
And what's on in your head? Like, are you thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna meet Ed Milet? Or were you thinking, all right, I don't know how this is gonna happen, but
I said, I don't believe it until I see it. I was like, I'm not going to believe it until I see it. It was too surreal. It was like a pinch me. It was more of a pinch me. It was more like a punch me because I really I couldn't feel anything. And we actually got stopped at a special section. Like you would have never known he was tucked away in this little door, but he was there in a private room. And now I know. So, but I don't
you
know
know where the private room is.
he was there was someone at the door and they were like, well, your names are not on the list. I'm like, but listen, this is like leadership. We're here to meet Ed.
Did you
So
say
I did. I overstepped Canada and I'm like, this is leadership and we're from Canada. So we're representing Canada. And I don't know what made me do that.
I love it. That is awesome.
Yeah. I literally had their backs and they had mine clearly because I was not part of leadership, but they made me part of leadership at that time. And they had their white, like the VIPs, right?
Yes.
We had the blue, whatever for general. And yeah, so they're like, okay. She was like, okay, come with me. Make it very quick because he's going to go on stage soon. And I started shaking at the knees. I'm like, oh my God. Couple steps away from the door. She opens the door. Sure enough, he's standing right there. Standing right there. There was about 5 or 6 people in this room. And again, I really don't remember much other than going up to him because they're like, go ahead, go take a picture with him. And then nothing mattered at that moment. And I got to share what I always envisioned, especially these 2 months, Melissa, exactly what I wanted to tell him.
That's what's
I
crazy.
kid you not. I said, if I have to tell him, I love his heart. And I did. I had the opportunity and I said, Ed, I think this is what I said. I think this is how it went down, but I'm pretty certain, right? Like I wanted to be in the moment. So I wanted to make sure like I wasn't too la la goo goo.
Right.
So I did tell him, I said, I love your heart. I want to thank you for everything you do. You're extremely inspirational to me. And I envision you. You're constantly in my vision. And I've always envisioned coming over to your house and actually breaking bread with you at your backyard, in your yard, like in your home. And he looked at me and he's like, well, I love you too. And he hugged me and he said, what's your name? Where are you from? And I said, my name is Georgette. I'm from Toronto, Canada. And then he's like, oh, I know you. Okay, that you should have saw my face. I was like, you know me. He's like, yeah, that's me that responds to the DMs. He goes, it's really me. Like I respond to my DMs. He goes, I see you on there all the time. I was like, Ed Milet recognized my name. And he put a face to a name. And I thought, okay, this is surreal. We had our photo taken. He made me laugh. I made him laugh. And he then said, well, why don't you come on my podcast sometime? I said, when? How? Just tell me, I'll be there. And that's when he was like, okay, just do, work your way up on here and there. And I said, okay. I said, so don't forget this face. He goes, I'm not going to forget you. He goes, I remember you. I'll know you. I was like, okay. And it was a big hug, a couple of photos that someone took. And then I had to track those photos down, which were interesting. And I'm telling you, and then before I know it, he was out at the same time. I came back to my seat. I didn't really have a chance to tell anyone except for here's a picture and I shared it with you guys, right? That's how it happened.
Wow. I think the part that was just so absolutely shocking to me is that because I knew like how we had talked about, you had put this in your vision, you had been working on this, for a couple months. I really thought, I'm like, talk about taking the bull by its horn. Like that girl, like she went out there and just waited until he was like in transition from coming, whatever like, go get it, girl. And then
Yeah.
when I found out like how it really went down, like that was just mind blowing.
I think it changed my life. I really do believe the exchange of words I had in a few seconds with him made me feel very significant, like for someone that I admire so much and look up to. And only because he really is, he is a genuine person. He is a real human being. So just for him to have acknowledged, like, just shows you how down to earth he is. Really proves who he is, right?
And you know, the beauty of what you just said is you said he made, like, imagine all the people that may look up to you and you make them feel significant. Like, what a beautiful, like, we all have those people in our lives. We don't have to be Ed Milet. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like, that's such a beautiful statement. Like, just saying hi to the lady at the grocery store that checks out your stuff all the time. Like, the fact that you know them, you remember their name, like what a beautiful, like, just right there, that how much we can make people feel significant in such a small gesture. All he did was take a picture of you and say, hey, I know who you are.
Yes.
Like the ripple effect of just that right there, of what
Yes.
that, like, he's living what he's saying. And now by you sharing that, like, look at the lives that will change.
That is exactly how this helped me, how that moment helped me. And I vowed, I promised myself,
Mhm.
I'm going to use this and I'm going to learn from this. And you're right, we don't realize the impact we have on other people's lives. You don't have to be an Ed Milet. I mean, the grand scheme, like, who is Ed Milet? Ed Milet is a human being
Yep.
that
It's so real.
so real, but has the audience of millions of viewers. But he was an Ed Milet that no one really knew once upon a time, right?
Well, it's
So
like,
it goes,
yeah. And it's like him talking about his dad and how the one person that was extremely significant in helping his dad, and look at all the people that he changed. And like, I can point back to, I know the person that was the big shift for me in my mindset. And I don't know if that person really, I probably should reach out to that person and let them know that we all have that opportunity to be someone's one person that can totally change the trajectory of someone's life. And it's just one small gesture of caring and making someone feel significant. Like, it's just so powerful.
I'm nodding my head no, but my whole heart and head is going yes. Um, we all have an impact, even on a complete stranger, like you just said, passing by, giving someone a smile, asking them how their day is going. I mean, we really don't know the weight of what that could mean for someone in that day, in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, does Ed know the impact he had on my life in that moment, in that day? I mean, I don't know if he did. But he might get that a little bit more often than you and I would probably get, right? Just because he's a little bit more popular than you and I for now.
That's right. I love it.
Move over, right? No, I'm joking. But yeah, so that is exactly my takeaway with the mindset thing. And because we feel very gifted and you know, what we've learned up until now in our lives and the experiences that have brought us here, just share that. Just share that, because yes, people are watching us. People do watch you. People are listening. So come from the most genuine place, have that open mindset, have that open heart. Don't ever feel like you're too small or too little to touch someone's heart. And one day at a time. I know we'll keep changing. You know what others may be dealing with. Like, I know we will have an impact on people's lives, and I'm sure we already have, one way or another. Like you just said, reach out to that person and let them know.
Yeah.
you know?
It's so interesting to me because what I have found just from doing this podcast, and I mean, I don't have that many under my belt, but I've noticed that the people, and even in Ed Milet's situation, the people that seem to have the biggest impact are the people who are as far away from perfection as you could possibly get. But they're the ones that are not afraid to share their imperfections and show where they've like adjusted and changed, and like, here's how this has helped me. Do you have a story that you tell yourself? Like mine is, I don't belong. Like that's my inside story. And I've done a lot of work to change that. Like I'll try to find things like, oh, see, you don't belong there. Like they didn't say hi to you today or something silly, like, do you have a story that kind of plays in your head that you have to really work on to like say, okay, negative Nelly, be quiet?
Ooh, yeah, absolutely I do.
Mhm.
But first of all, let's go back to that. I know you said it's, like a work in progress and you've had to work a lot on that. I want to remind you, because I did just hear you say that, you do belong. And I love you. And you belong so much. Are
Yeah,
you kidding me?
yeah.
Like, where
And
would
it's
you
like
be to?
and I say, and the reason I share that is because I think a lot of people have that, but we don't talk about it. So people think, oh, I'm alone, like I'm the only one that feels. And so I share that because I'm not there now. I have to
Yes.
work on it, and like I have to, it's that reticular thing that
Yeah,
Tony Robbins talks about, that if you look for it, you're gonna find all those things that point to the direction that you don't belong. And so I
yeah.
have to really work hard on not looking for those kind of things. And that's why I share it, because I feel like when I do, because I think a lot of people have that negative
Yeah,
and they have to quiet it down. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, I
Certainly.
appreciate you saying that so much. I really,
No, but it's true. I listen. It's amazing. It's always easier to listen to other people. Sometimes, we don't really think out loud.
right.
So it's always easier to pay attention to what others are speaking. And that's why sometimes like having a support group, having your friends and having that loving, nurturing group of, high quality people in your life that will catch you when you're speaking to yourself and when you're speaking out loud. Like that is what we need, right? People to remind us, hey, I just caught that word. Pay attention to that word. Don't put it out there. You are special, or you are this. I think it's really important because I need that. I need someone to kind of put me back in my lanes once in a while, and that's why it's so important to have that support that we do with our family. But you know what? To answer your question, yeah, I mean, gosh, I think there's so many things that I'm being honest, like there's so many things, but the some things stand out to me right now where yeah, I always, you know what, I'll share something. Like, for example, my why. I don't have my husband and I, we don't have kids. And every single coach, every single business person, every single, oh gosh, like, I mean, if you listen to every video out there or every audio, my why, my family, my kids, my family, my kids, it didn't apply to my husband and I.
Mm,
And for many, many years, I thought, okay, well, when we have them, that is going to be my why. Like I was constantly looking for that why to drive me.
right.
And then I reached a point in my personal life with my husband where we realized, okay, this is our life, and we're blessed, and we're satisfied, and we're content, and we decided, okay, we're not gonna approach this anymore. This is where we're at in our life. My why, like it took a toll on me, because then I was like, what about the why? Like I
Right.
was constantly looking for that why to come, right?
Well, and then you have to say, well, then maybe I can't have a why because everybody else's why is this. So if I don't have that, then how do I come up with a why?
Ah,
Yes, that's such a
exactly.
good point.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of people that don't have kids these days, like a lot more people, right? Are they're older and they're contemplating having kids or whatever the situation may be. But that is a struggle. That is a struggle that I'm still dealing with till this day, because I'm reinventing myself and finding other reasons, like my purpose, a higher purpose, where now I have to reframe my mind, my mentality to think I can give back in other ways. My why will be the drive for my community, for all these charities, for in the moment helping people like in their today. My why doesn't have to be what the majority of people's why is. And let's face it, it is a majority of people's why. And one story does stand out to me, and it is a manager. It was a broker manager at the time, a manager that was in an office.
Mhm.
And, they all wanted to say, this is like very early on in my career. And I wish I had the gall to stand up to him differently. I think I was toning it down. I think I did have the gall. I was just like, because it was a bit of an insecurity,
Mhm.
I didn't feel like I knew the proper answer. So I held back. But it was a gentleman, and he was a manager in an office that I was with, a part at the time. And we had a business session. We were business planning. And he's like, your goals are big, but what's your why? What's your why? And I'm like, my why is this. He's like, that's not a why. I'm like, okay, but my why is this. He's like, that's not a why. He's like my why is my kids. And I'm like, okay, but I'm like 22 years old. I don't have kids. And at the time, I didn't know I wasn't going to have kids, right?
Right.
And I remember him saying, well, you need a better why. You need a why. I'm like, just because you have kids and that's your why doesn't mean my why is not valid, right? So again, being 44 years now old and having the experience of life under my belt and knowing where I stand today, my why is good enough. I'm just building it, and I'm looking forward to so much that I can give back to, and making sure it fits into all my planning.
So can I ask you, because I know that you are speaking to a lot of people in their heart right now, and what could you like, and I like this, what would you say to your younger self? Because there are people that, they it's just not for whatever reason, like you said, for whatever reason they have decided not to have children. Do you feel comfortable sharing your why? Because I feel like there might be someone out there right now that's really struggling, feeling like, well, how do I even come up with a why when this is the ABC to a why is your kids are in there somehow. Um, I would love to, if you want to.
Yeah, I'll share. I'll share. Different stages of my life, it was different
Right,
reasons.
right.
But now, hindsight, looking back, I will tell you, time flew by really quickly as my husband and I were trying to sort out through certain things.
Right.
So very early on, I struggled with, well, I want to work on myself, because being a parent is it's like it's like the biggest hat you're going to wear.
Mhm.
And coming from where I came from, as much as I love my parents, and I know they gave me all the love they had in their heart and support and whatnot, I wanted more. I knew if I was going to be a parent, I wanted to pass on more. And I always felt like, well, I got to work on myself. I got to work on myself. Like, I can't pass on this baggage. I gotta do more. And funny, because, now looking back, it's a constant evolving luggage
Right.
that you're gonna have.
And you kind of unpack some underwear over here, and then you put the pants over here. But yeah, it's a luggage that's almost like the Mary Poppins bag. Like you're always pulling stuff out.
Totally. But that was the first set of reasons at the time, which I realized were not reasons, they were excuses, right? There's a big difference between distinguishing reason and excuse.
Mhm.
But that was my first reason. That was in my mind. That was in our head. And my husband and I both literally felt the same. So, and we were young. We thought we had time. We knew we had time at the time. People were having kids a little bit older. And then if you fast forward, I mean, I'm a natural born entrepreneur. So is my husband. We both had businesses at a very young age, very driven, very motivated. And And then we started thinking, okay, well, let's just focus a few years on establishing our business, taking it off, and then we'll concentrate on us. First establish what we didn't have, which is like security, coming from, because we didn't have that. Let's set up ourselves properly so that we can also, have something to give our family, right? Well, then that took a few extra years too, right? And that was another thing that I realized was a bit of an excuse rather than a reason, because there's a lot of people that, pardon my French, didn't have their shit together and they were popping out kids left and right.
Right.
I mean, I kind of now looking back go, wow, like good for you guys. You guys didn't need to have everything so perfect and lined up.
Right.
So that was at the time I remember looking back and going, I guess I don't need my ducks all in a row, but I prefer to have them all in a row, you know. And then again, and then at the time where my husband and I thought to ourselves, oh shit, we don't have a lot of time, because of the whole clock and our bodies and so on. And our goals and visions, like as parents, we wanted to be a certain age if we were going to have kids.
Right.
And then we thought to ourselves, we don't have a lot of time. Like, let's figure this out. And then, as time passed, we realized, okay, what are the options here? Things clearly weren't, falling into place. And we talked very openly as things kind of went back and forth. And we thought, well, we've been satisfied. Should we continue to stress out to figure out how this is going to fit into our lives? Or are we going to be satisfied with the life we've built? And look how happy we already are. Like, can we afford to throw a wrench in this? And we've worked so hard to be happy and establish ourselves. Like, can we afford to shake the grounds, the foundation we literally just built? As much as we wanted to share it, could we afford to do that? It's like that straw that kind of, that breaks the camel's back. We're like, what would be the best decision for our family? Clearly, things are not happening naturally. And we decided the best decision for us and our family, like him and I, was to not pursue anything unnatural. And not that there's anything wrong with it. It was just something that we didn't want to pursue. And then we debated with, actually adoption. That was like our last final stage in all this. Like, if we were going to do it, how about this? Would we do this? And our hearts were very open to the idea of adoption. And at one point I was like, well, this is great because clearly I don't have the time to, for the 9 months, wait a year, and then the 9 months. So I'm like, can I just have twins? And like, let's just have twins. It would be like perfect. We'll get it out of the way, But again, life seems to have its own way. And we reached a point in time, COVID also kind of struck, and that put everything at a halt in our lives. And then we just both, ironically enough, my husband and I both came to the term and the idea that, and the know that this wasn't something that was going to be our destiny. We were not going to end up being parents. And we're fine because we have so much unconditional love for our 2 nephews, and and a lot of other beautiful things. I have my cat. I mean, my Romeo, he's 22 years old, so we give him a lot of love. Yeah, but that's how we came to that.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, how did you come to your why? Like, how did you come to why? Because, and I ask that because I have dear friends that, they chose not to have children. And it was a struggle because they felt like they were supposed to, but they weren't. And I think that was the big inner turmoil. I was like, but this isn't for us and we're okay with it. So can't you guys be okay with it? And and I can see where that would be a huge roadblock, especially when people put kids as the purpose of your life. I think it will help a lot of people that are struggling with that same thing, and that, it's their life. They get to do what they want to do, and their why can be their why. And there is no right, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer.
There is no right or wrong. I mean, obviously having a family is a beautiful extension of who you are and your spouse and so on. I mean, that's great. And that is exactly my most recent discovery.
Yeah.
Is I am enough. I don't need an extension of me. I am enough. And what I decide to do with the rest of my life, however long God wants me to be here, my higher purpose, I feel, is to help others. And I definitely need to explore this path more so, and I'm implementing it in almost every area of my business. Like, that is my new why: how to help people in every business that I currently own, which is like 4. But yeah, so it's just helping people, and I am enough. And my why is helping others, because we can all afford to do more. I don't mean financially, I mean just love more, give more, offer more. And I think I'm doing my part.
I think so. I think you just, I mean, and I think just for people that are struggling with that decision, see, I just think that is absolutely so beautiful. And I can see where just hearing that I am enough and
Mhm.
like that, I hope that the people that are having that same inner voice of, I hope they can hear that. Because I know you're not alone. There are a lot of people, and even if it's not, that you decided not to have kids or whatever the decision is that you feel like you've got to check the box off because other people think that that's what you're supposed to do, whatever it is, that you are enough. If it's your decision and you're okay with it, we should all be okay with it too.
100%. 100%.
You are.
It's funny. People only poke at you when they feel your insecurities. If you are confident
Yeah.
and you ride with that and you wear it and you say it and you speak it, no one has the guts to approach you with that or question you or label you. It's amazing. It's like a defense. It's like a guard or a shield.
Yeah.
So once we own it, put it out there, I guarantee you, no one's going to dare come to you. I mean, you might have the odd person that's like a little loopy that doesn't have boundaries or.
Right. Well, and what I
that,
have found is the people that want to poke and do, it's really not about me. It's really about them, and they're using it to make themselves feel better. And a
bingo.
friend of mine, she said this, and I love this. So what about this? What about this makes you uncomfortable? Like if someone said to me, you decided not to have kids, blah, blah, blah. And I would say, and now this was not our situation, it was something different. It was like, well, what about this? So what about that makes you uncomfortable? Like putting it back on them and letting them answer, like me not having children, like what part of this makes you uncomfortable? Why does
Wow.
that bother you?
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good, powerful tool. I use it a lot when I'm being questioned for the decisions that I make. When I know that I'm good, I put it back on them. Yeah.
I love
Yes.
I love
Well, I know for a fact, I know a dear friend of mine is going to hear this, and you, I know for a fact, have changed her life. And I I don't think most people speak that freely about the whole children thing. And what a gift. You are such a beautiful soul. I cannot tell you how I just the fact of how quickly we formed this friend alliance is just insane. And like I said, girl, you're on the ride or die list. Like, who's your ride or die girl? I'm like, Georgette is on that list.
I better be on speed dial. I'm here for you. You know it. I
are.
know with my back. I mean, I feel so blessed.
Yeah.
I do. I feel so blessed to have you in my life in such a short time. I mean, I'm so looking forward to the rest of our lives, our friendship, our sisterhood. I love it. I'm so excited.
And
We'll
I
do
can't
more
wait
of
for
it.
us to share like in the morning, like all of these things that like I cannot wait to say, Georgette, look what happened.
Yes, yeah, you better. And again, like maybe we'll say this for another, podcast, but I'm telling you, you're in my vision because we've connected our new goal and our new vision. So you know what it is. And,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
we're
you're
doing
going
it.
to get there. So
Absolutely, we're doing it. Oh my gosh, girl, I love you so much. I'm so thrilled. And I think even that in itself, like I even put that into the whole thing of like it was a God thing. Like there's just no way all of those pieces could come together by accident. There's just no way.
just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just gave me totally.
Well, we're gonna
Yeah.
have to definitely there. I can see we could probably go another 3 hours. So what we'll do, we're gonna do this again. And next time, maybe might be just someone else hosting the podcast. Just throwing that
Oh,
out there.
oh, okay. All right. That's good. I would love that. We'll work on that.
All right. Girl, love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And we are we'll be in touch.
Totally. Thank you so much for having me. I adore you. Thank you.